Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello, thank you. Hello, awesome. Hello, hello. Okay. Oh, hello. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry to get on a little bit later than I thought it was. All right. I have a couple of announcements, but just in case not everybody's here yet or whatever, I think we should just keep going for the moment. Like in about 5 minutes, once everybody's going, I'll try to make an announcement or two about this exam thing. But let's first keep going, meaning most specifically, any specific questions that anybody has. So we're going to keep prepping for the exam, kind of like we were on Wednesday and Monday with the same, and I'll put the same things back in the Google stream, but the classroom stream. But so if anybody is working right now, just keep working wherever you are in the practice exam. But if anybody has developed a question over the weekend about any of the material in the practice exam, I would love to take it now, whether in the chat or whatever. But other than that, I'm going to be quiet for, again, I will interrupt everybody in like 10 minutes, but I'm going to just be quiet and let you work or gather your materials working on the practice exam. But any questions you have, the more specific and the faster I can answer them, therefore, the more I can answer them, the better. I mean, the more of them I can answer, the better. But so, okay. Question?
Professor,
Yes.
um, I was wondering when you get a chance, could you like go over part 4 of the free floating question? I tried following like the I guess the answer sheet, but I'm still having some difficulty answering the question. Like I
Okay.
know it should be kind of like what we're doing with vectors, but I still think like I'm having some issues with that.
Okay, wait, totally fair. Great question. The answer is absolutely. Let me get my head. I part. Yeah. Wait. The only thing I'll add. Yes. I mean, sorry. Yes. I'm gonna. There's one little thing I was just putting in the stream. I'm gonna finish putting that in the stream. Then yes. Now we're talking about part. The one thing is I might have to be slightly more specific. You're saying the part 4 one you're talking about, right?
Yes, free
Right.
floating.
Right. Okay. So I might not be able to do that. This is an awesome question. I will totally do it. I may not be able to do the whole thing right now, but I think I can get to the heart of the matter. I think I can do the hardest one of it, which I think is, I mean, well, let me put it that way. In a second, I'll do it. I just want to finish putting something on the stream. But if you were forced to choose which part for me to do first, you might, I mean, I might do one anyway. But if you take a moment to think about if you really want me to start from part A or not, and then I'm happy to do it either way. But I'll yeah, give me a second. Let me just finish something.
Okay, thank you.
Totally, yes. Okay. Haven't forgotten. I'm coming to. Sorry, I'm gonna. Alyssa's question is very fair. I'm gonna. I think it's a perfect thing for me to work on for everybody in a moment. I'm not forgetting. In fact, I'll even say if I got to do nothing else this, which I don't think is the case, but if I got to do nothing else this period, I too would have voted for me to be trying to help with something in question 4, the question that Alyssa's asking about. So it's a totally valid. I mean, I'm glad someone's asking about question 4, and I will turn my attention to that in a minute. I'm going to sort of try to do it quietly in a way on the board for Alyssa and everybody else, so that people can keep thinking. Again, there's an announcement that I want to also make that's independent of Alyssa's question, meaning I was going to make it anyway. I don't want the two things to collide and confuse each other. So again, everybody just bear with me for a second that I'm trying to post something that's in the form of an announcement just to clarify something kind of important, and then so yeah, so bear with me for and if something was put in the chat in the last 2 minutes, I will see it in a second. Um, oh, oh my goodness. Hold on. Excuse me. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. And I believe, yes, that, okay. And first of all, sorry, Alyssa, that was you, and it is part for free floating that you're asking about, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, just make sure. And so, as usual, I'm overdoing. So I'm going to keep I haven't answered it yet. I'm totally. That's my next order of bit. I'm going to do that on the board. So I am. But now that everybody sort of seems in the room, all of you, everybody, I think it's clear now that we've been sitting here for a little while. Like Alyssa's got a good question about part 4. Other people, I think, are either working on their own thing or going to ask me questions. Like everybody else is being quiet, and I think I know you guys, all of you now, sort of well enough to know that now that we're at 11:20, if everybody's pretty much being quiet, I actually really do trust that we're all being quiet because we all do get that there's like this test today, and that we're all studying right now, and and anybody who doesn't have a question right now maybe is scrambling a little bit and trying to study and using this time, which is good. In other words, I'm assuming that everybody actually does know that there's a test in the air, and that, yeah, if we had studied perfectly, this would be a good time to take advantage of that and ask some like last minute questions. But if we're not up to the last minute yet, it's sort of a weird space for everybody. Okay, I'm over talking this. Here's what I want to say before I go over before I attempt to address Alyssa's question. And again, my attempt to address Alyssa's question is probably what I would choose. That's probably the material of the practice exam that I would choose to go over today if no one had it. I think it's the best thing for anybody to see. It's the hardest stuff. It's the stuff that people haven't seen. So in the absence of anybody's questions, I think it's the right choice. But it's been a weekend, a long weekend for everybody, maybe a holiday weekend for some of you, I hope, maybe a family weekend. Like, I don't know if it was a big studying weekend. I think every new week brings new surprises. And what I'm trying to get at is this. I'm about to put something in everybody's box. I had a big meeting with Walters 5 days ago, and we have decided to make some revisions in this situation that we think will bring all the classes even better together and make it better for all the classes. So I've got good news and bad news about this exam, and I don't know how you'll feel about either of it, it'll be more clear in what I just posted to everybody. You're about to get yet a new updated version of the practice exam, which for some of you would be very strange to get now that there's only a couple of hours left, it would seem, before the exam. But what we're going to say is, and this is not a democracy now, we're saying this, I'm saying this, we actually want to, we're not going to post the exam till Thursday night. We're going to give you we're going to extend this. Maybe that's painful for some of you. Maybe you just want to get out of the way. And I do apologize. But I actually do think everybody can use more time and can use a fuller opportunity to survey all the material that all the classes have been working on together. So we are actually, well, thank you. Oh, great. Okay, but there's also some bad news, or this is a slightly mixy thing. But yes, the exam was supposed to be posted today. It seems pretty clear to me that most people did know that, even people who were confused when they walked in, like why the exam wasn't already happening. It was supposed to be today. It was scheduled for today. You did have a practice document that was meant to help you with that in a big way, and a practice document that had a bunch of answers in it. And the exam is supposed to be take home, and it's still, all that will still be true. The thing is, what we did as a compromise to or as a shift in the whole thing is, we decided to give you 3 more days to move the exam till Thursday night, and then give you the whole weekend to do it, which again could ruin, I mean, weekends are for different things for different people, but hopefully it gives you a little bit more time to actually organize your time. We're not going to take it back, in other words, until Monday, but you will see that the practice exam, now here's the flip side, the practice exam is now longer, like there is more in it. That is meant, it has problems in it that are closer to the way Walters's class focused on, let's say, and then there's problems in there that are closer to the way we focus. It's all the same thing. You'll see, the more you see it, the more you'll see it's all the same type of material, for sure. But the last wrinkle, and hopefully you'll see this because I just put it in the Google Stream, is the extra problems that were put at the end that are for everybody, and the whole thing is now for everybody for all sections. Those questions, what we're saying is, because you haven't had as much, because you won't have, because this is new and there's only one more class before the exam, we're saying this, that those anything you don't recognize in that practice exam, anything that seems unsolved or new that you don't have a solution sitting next to you for or whatever, we're saying if you see that on the actual exam, it's going to appear verbatim. That is, this is also to address some of the questions that we're getting and some of the some things that happen with Chegg and all that kind of stuff, that believe it or not, anything that's in that practice exam that you don't have solutions to, if we didn't already give you a handwritten solution or a typewritten solution ourselves, then we're guaranteeing you that what you see on the exam, if it's unsolved there, then what you see on the exam will be exactly as it is there. In fact, and I think I'll even notice, this is what Walters, it says like this is exam all over it, so that there's no illusions. Like if you can do whatever you want, again, with your friends, with the internet, with textbook, with notes, get understanding or solutions of those problems any way you want. Or hopefully, of course, my ideal is those problems won't even seem very different to you from the ones that we are already talking about, talk about all the time in class, and they won't seem very different to you from the ones that you have solutions for. So you'll just be able to solve them. I mean, they're not meant to be crazy or anything. But anything you can do to solve any of these problems is what you're allowed to do, excuse me. And the final thing, the exam will not be posted today. So let me say this again, and I'm going to put, actually, yes, hold on one second. Let me just type this clearly so it's clear to everybody. And of course I will I'm not trying to run away. I'll take comments or whatever, and we'll continue. I'm going to do Alyssa's problem, any other problems this period, but I'm also saying we're also going to have Wednesday to talk about stuff for you to really gather your questions together. Sorry, bear with me for a second. today is sorry. What I'm just trying to say is clear. I know this is yeah, right, right. Okay, no, good. Wait, sorry. So, oh, I'm glad. All right, so I'm looking at the chat. This announcement I'm making, actually, I don't even need to say that it's bad. Sorry, it's just big enough. The announcement I'm making right now is just important enough. Like if I were a student, I would, I would definitely care about this. It's definitely a change. So I'm trying to be as clear as possible. So I just put it in the stream as clearly as I could. I mean, even separately from any documents. I'll even try to, in a second, I'll write it in the chat as clearly as I can. What I am saying to everybody, the biggest headline of what I'm saying right now to anybody who's listening is, yes, you were supposed to have an exam today. We were going to distribute it today. Like we weren't going to distribute it in class. We were going to have this class period and I shouldn't overemphasize what was true, but if you came to class today to thinking today's an exam day, then you were thinking correctly. But we are now officially saying that we, in fact, are postponing the exam. We're saying that, and not even because anybody complained. By the way, it's not because anybody complained or did anything weird or anything. It's just we've had a chance to really trade all of our notes about all the like what's really going on in all of the sections, and we're trying to see what's happening as best we can with this Zoom environment and all that. So I'm announcing that as an executive decision, we did change the exam to Thursday evening. So again, let me say, it will not be distributed today. We're hopefully going to celebrate an extension of this time to Thursday evening after lab is over. Like there's one section that even has lab on Thursday. And that ends at, I believe, 7:10. Maybe it's 5:30. I will get back. I can confirm that in a second. But it will be either 5:30 or 7:10 on Thursday that will distribute the exam. It will be due now, to answer some questions in the private chat. It will now be due Monday morning before this class, before 10:50. I mean, it'll be due at 10:50. It has to be handed in before this class on Monday morning. So you're actually also being given more time for it. Like it was going to be a Monday to Wednesday turnaround. Now it's a Thursday to Monday turnaround. Again, if you're interested in terms of success on this exam, this is meant to be all good news. I do think it'll give you more time to do it and more time to study, all of that. And we put an updated, finalized review, practice test in the stream. Hopefully you got it while I was talking. Now to answer the question in the private chat, like it's true, I'm trying to be as honest or as clear as possible. It seems like people like this, what people are saying in the private chat, which is good. I will admit, even if you don't like it, it's happening. But the bad news that I'm alluding to is just that I will admit that the exam did, or at least the practice document did get a little longer as a result. Like there's more in the practice document now that we're saying, that not more material at all, definitely not, more examples of similar problems. So maybe even for some of you, that's even great news, because sure, it's more opportunity to study the same material. But I want to be super clear that you'll see if you leaf through this document, you might, it got longer. And the problems that are at the end now that we didn't give you in the first document, they don't have solutions with them. So the one bad news I'm saying is there's a couple of extra problems that we put in, that we intentionally put in without solutions. And what we're saying about those is that those may appear on the exam, and I'm happy to talk about them right now and on Wednesday as well. Like you can study them directly tonight and tomorrow and ask me any questions about Wednesday. I'm happy to answer, blah, blah, blah. But I am saying, what I'm trying to say as clearly as possible is that if you see any of those on the new exam, since we know you're seeing those are arriving in your box more recently, that those not a digit will be changed at all. They'll be exactly as they look there. So in other words, any work that you do between now and then to solve them, to help each other, to look on the web, to do whatever, anything you do to try to solve those, the additional problems between now and Thursday is going to be to your direct benefit. It is as though you've already done it, because it will be exactly as that on the actual thing. It's like, you want to call it sneak peek or preview or whatever, that's what it is. Yes. So what Sarah, okay, thank you. Yeah, right, exactly. What Sarah put in the chat is what I'm trying to say. Like if all of those were to appear in the exam, yes, they would appear exactly. That is what I'm saying. Yes. That's the worst news of the bad. That's what I meant by bad news. Like if you can handle that, that's the extent of the bad news. I mean, look, and again, I'm a little nervous about all because it's a big enough thing. I know there are some of you for whom, and maybe I'd be one of you, for whom any information like this is bad news because you got used to one idea and now it's a change. I mean, and I do apologize for that if that's the case. We're hoping that this is a change all for the better to make the exam just that much. Really, what the point is we're trying to make it actually that much easier for everybody to get a super legitimate, unquestionably fair and deserved A. I mean, so we're both trying to make it easier and we're trying to make it more clearly not about a direct Chegg experience. I could be more detailed if you want. But we want everybody to get an A, but we want everybody to know that when they get their A, they really did something, and don't feel like in any way it was a gift or it was a cheap or something like that. Okay, is that good? Right. Good. Oh, that's a big thing too. Look, I think the weekend, good. Hopefully this will allow you to use the weekend in a better way. We didn't originally want to do that. I don't want to over talk any of this, but look, as long as I'm being clear about what it is, that's my most important thing right now. What I'm clearly saying is when we go back to class right now here, I mean, what I'm trying to be clear about is we are continuing to help each other practice for an exam that now will be distributed Thursday evening after lab, and you'll have till Monday morning to do it. So you have the whole weekend to do it right. And it's still true that you can all help each other and all that stuff. I think what we're also kind of secretly maybe saying is, if you're going to help, we really want you to help each other. And especially like if you have friends in the other section or they have friends with you, like all the better to mix it up for people with different professors and different perspectives to mix it up. But on those last three problems, it's like an open invitation. We're saying to you, go crazy with each other on those last three, like make it a group project, pretend it's a lab or whatever, or a lab that you cared about or something. And like literally just try to solve those last three problems because they literally will look you could just consider it an advanced project if you like, for which we're trying to give you this time. It won't, again, because I know it's really confusing to a lot of people whenever we're giving examples, like, are they examples that are kind of similar or are they the thing? So to be super clear, wherever it says in that practice exam, like this exam, whatever, we're saying that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's more, it's a development, but that's the thing. And then yes, some part will be taken from the earlier bit where you have solutions. That's what I'm going to go back to now. Like everything in the earlier is still hugely valid and relevant to getting a good grade on that exam. It's what it's what Alyssa asked about. I'm about to answer, but these points in the cool. Look, and everything I'm seeing in the chat, and it's still the case that whatever you put in the chat, you're getting points and all that. And I'm appreciating, you'll notice that less than usual, I'm appreciating what I'm seeing in the chat because I think this is tricky what I'm saying. And again, my first goal is to make sure it's actually just clear. Second of all, I hope it works for everybody. It is meant to be a good thing for sure. It's not meant to be bad news. I'm just admitting where I think it might be tricky for people. I will shut up in a second, like I always say that, and it's never true, but I will shut up about this. Wait, okay, yeah. I will shut up and I'll go back to material. Can I, just two quick things. And again, I appreciate that people, I've noticed, and I would count this. Well, anyway, I appreciate what people are saying in the chat, both privately and publicly. Oh, Alyssa, sorry, another question, or sorry, I'm losing, is that a question?
Yes, I just wanted to ask something about specifically for the exam.
Yeah.
Do you care about how we submit the exam? Because I prefer writing things down with a pen and paper.
Oh.
Would you mind if I do it that way? Could I just scan the document and then
Yeah.
PDF?
Wait,
Do you prefer
that's a great
typing it?
No, absolutely. Wait, sorry. Okay, that's another perfect. So, not to make it all about the Alyssa show, but can I just again? Oh, sorry. And I just okay. This is a perfect. That's a great, fair question. And I just want to say that I got that exact. I just at the moment she was asking, someone had hit send on a private chat version of that same question. Like it's definitely on people's minds. It's definitely a fair question. Also. Well, and the answer is, you please, no, to everybody, you can write by pen, please do. Do you see why I struggle all the time with this stupid board, my stupid board, and I keep changing like colors and font, is because I struggle with that too. No, I don't want anybody to type. Let me make this as clear as possible to everybody. It's such a fair question. We need to get it from you electronically. So that's why I want it to be in Google. Like well, we have to now because of the virus, right? Blah, blah, blah. But I mean, the whole thing about Google Classroom and PDF and all of that is so that you can transmit it to me electronically, and also so that I can grade it much more easily and get it back to you much more easily. But the document itself, this is to everybody, even if Alyssa and the person in the private chat who asked this, even if they already can tell what my answer is, to everybody, absolutely the way to take this exam is print out our freaking stupid thing, print out the questions for your own sake, then go wherever, go to your quiet place, go to your private island, and on blank pieces of paper of your own, or blank graph paper of your own, or blank like lined paper of your own, although I recommend against that, but whatever on your own, with your own pen and your own pencil, do out this exam how you want. You could even do it in blue books if that makes you more comfortable, although my God, would that be weird. But no, yeah, we want you to write this exam out your way, your pencil, your pen, your drawings. Ideally, you would even maybe make a draft and then recopy it, making it neater if you had time. But of course, in a real exam, you never have time to do that. But please, I know I'm over. No, do whatever makes you comfortable. Don't type it. Weird, but then just whatever you do, yeah, then scan the pages in and make it one big PDF and really, really PDF. That part makes a difference because I can't grade it. The other thing, it's weird, but I can. That will work. So yes, two. Private chat people and Alyssa, or is my answer clear? Like you definitely do. You do not have to type.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. I would die if I had to type that. Right. So wait, can I get, I'm going to move on. I know I'm being, but, and I know, can I say this too? I know from experience, I have a way of trying to calm people down about experiences that I find stressful. My way of calming people down about experiences that I find stressful is I end up accidentally projecting and dumping all my stress on the people. Like, I don't know if you all can tell or not, but I hate exams as much as you really, and a lot of you do a lot better with exams than I did. I mean, a lot of you do both intellectually and psychologically a lot better than I did as a student. I'm not all, obviously I did very well on key exams and so forth, but I was never one of those people that was just like, oh, an exam's coming up, la di da, I'll just collect the notes that I'd perfectly already taken and collect my study brain and I'll be fine. Like, I never thought I'd be fine. And sometimes I was, and sometimes I wasn't. So so to everybody, do what you need to do to be fine. And as long as it's sort of clear that, can I just get a show of, I'm going to switch to gallery view. If I can just get a show of electronic hands that you accept, like that you understand I'm saying the exam's now changed to Thursday, Monday. Great, that's one hit. Yeah, if we're changing it to Thursday, Monday. Great, okay. And it will have, and you have a new, and right, okay. Just please put your hand up. I know the hands go down automatically please do put your hand or thumb up and keep it up. Oh, okay, I see enough. All right, I see enough. Okay, so the exam, thank you for bearing with. Again, this is intended to be a more positive A for everybody, honestly, like it is, but it is what it is either way. I'm gonna go back to solving problem 4 now, like Alyssa asked, because I think it's really good. All the Google stuff still applies, like the points and everything, and if I get a moment, I'll put that back in for today. But one other quick, but now so yeah, we're going to go, but I appreciate, I continue to really think that you guys as a group are really rolling with a tricky situation, which is physics plus life trickiness. I am going to go over this now. Now what I won't do, even though it's today and all that, I'm going to try not to just walk through the whole thing. That's what I'm trying, right? Because in theory, you have solutions to it. If I walk through the whole thing, it's not really efficient to anybody who, but there is, but I'll try to go over the key things to it. And let me just pull up mine. Sorry, hold on 1 second. In fact, I may, wait, sorry. So getting there. Oh, sorry, okay. So part 4 is right. All right. Free floating. Yeah. I'm going to try to skip, well, like, I'm going to try to skip to the meatiest, hardest part of this problem. I'm looking at the time. We still have 25 minutes. And it is true, of all of the things in this document, if there was one, the most meaty, direct thing I could do to help you with this document, probably right, is on page 8 of the exam. Again, this is what Alyssa's talking about, page 8. And I think a lot of the questions are sort of warm up, get down the facts kind of questions until really D4. Yeah, D4 is the heart of the problem. So I will try. I said I was going to do it quietly. I don't know how quietly. But when I say the heart, what I mean is what's tricky, what this problem is about ultimately is you're either adding together two-dimensional velocity vectors, like, right? I mean, or you're subtracting one two-dimensional velocity vector from another. But this is about the arithmetic of velocity vectors. And it is hard, because even though you could break it into smaller pieces that are each hopefully easier, but the pieces that this involves, the thing I'm about to write down, and again, like, it's hard in the right way. Like, if you can follow what I'm about to say, if Alyssa can follow, if anybody, and if you get how to do this problem once you've looked at it enough, then it is true that you sort of get everything that came before it. It's why this problem is hard, is right. It requires you to sort of get all the pieces that came before it. Chiefly, those two main pieces that I'm talking about are the concept of vector addition itself, adding by components. Like, you have to already understand that from displacement vector addition. But if you get that's what we're going to do here. We're going to add vectors or subtract them by components. But then you also have to understand what it means to add or subtract velocities, because it means something different from displacement. So the main thing to remind you before we go any further, this is this business. Oh, actually. And I'm also trying to, I know you have a solution, so I'm sort of trying to write not necessarily just what's in the solution, but, and I know I said this last time, but it's really important. Okay, this last bit right here is what I'm going to be using for whatever time I have, like, really the action of this problem. The hardest part is to know directly how to apply this last bit that I just wrote. This last bit that I just wrote on the board is GPR number 4, meaning form number 4, meaning it's Galileo's principle of relativity, but it's our fourth form. It's our most directly mathematical or quantitative form of the idea. And it says how to add velocities, meaning, and I'm going to start on the next page now. It says it's a rule in a way for which two types of velocities are ever allowed to be added together in the first place. Like, you can't just add any random velocities you want. It tells you which kinds can be added and what kind of result you get when you add them. In other words, it requires, this says that if we're going to add velocities, we really have to embrace the comparative nature of velocities, that every velocity is a comparison, a relation between two objects, never a velocity, never a statement about one object on its own. So I'm just rewriting, so I'm saying this and saying, if you want to add two velocities, they had better be measured in two different frames of reference. Like, one of them will be measured in frame of reference B, let's say. Another would be measured in some other reference, C. But as long as the second velocity is of as long as they bear this relationship to each other, as long as I add together, for example, the velocity of the baseball relative to the subway, as long as I add that to, say, the velocity of the subway relative to planet Earth, then what I'll get, what it's saying is I'll get the velocity of the baseball relative to planet Earth. Like it works. It looks like a random throwaway statement, like, oh, like transitivity. Oh, of course, A, B, C equals AC. But we're really literally saying, we're telling you when you can add and when you subtract. Like we're literally saying you could subtract from both sides and get an equally true statement like this. So this all tells you what we're going to do with the velocities in the problem that's given. So now I'm going to turn now. Like that's what this is what I generally know that I know is true of the addition of velocities. Like if I were in an exam, I would write something like this first. I would write this down. Like I'm skipping. Honestly, everything I've written down would help you with part A, B, C, and D. But I'm skipping straight to the middle of the thing and saying the middle of the question. And if I were on an exam and I wrote these two statements down right now as a beginning way to solve, I would already be getting points. Like these are true statements that are definitely on the topic of the problem. Now, to get more specific, what I want to do is figure out what I mean by A, B, and C. I'll just bring it up. So by A, what do I mean by A, B, and C? I mean the three objects involved. Now, and I don't know if this is the way I did it in the solution set, but so in other words, I'll say, instead of A, B, and C, I'll use W for water. Like A, B, and C are any three letters that stand for any three random objects. So I've got the water, I've got I've got what I'm going to call the shore, the riverbank. And we've got then the boat. I'm calling it shore, not riverbank, because if I called it riverbank, that would have an R, and it's confusing because it seems like it's the water. But all right, I've got these three objects, right? What we know that the velocity of the boat relative to the water, is given. The velocity of the boat. Actually, all right. I'm going to keep writing this. I'm going to stop talking for a minute. I'm just going to write. No, I'm not. I'm going to keep talking. The velocity of the boat relative to the water is 12. And we know that the velocity of the boat relative to the shore is equal to 10 meters per second at 45 degrees northwest. These are two velocities that were given, right? And I'm writing them as subscripted velocities. It's all about the double subscript now because we're taking the relational quality of velocity very seriously. So I've got these two velocities, BW and BS. Ultimately, what I'm asked for in this question in D4 is I'm asked, what is the velocity of the shore relative to the water, right? What I'm being asked this is what I'm literally being asked in question D4. I'm skipping the D4 again for everybody because I think it's the hardest. I think it's the most work involved here. All the prior questions are faster, simpler, and are answered in your solution sheets. But D4 is really where the hard issues are of this problem. Again, if you can, and if you want to tune me out right now and you're working on something else, I applaud you, no problem. But if you're at all scared of this problem or you haven't looked at it yet, you probably do want to hear what I'm saying. And please trust me that I don't think this is easy, but I think if you get this, you get everything, or everything that came before. Yeah. So solving D4, where what I've now done just to my own mind is I've translated the English directly into the physics math of it. Like we are looking to solve for the vector, the velocity vector V sub SW, the velocity of the shore relative to the water. That, yeah, and I'm looking again at the question. I'm super confident that I have translated that question correctly. Like, but in fact, I think that would confuse some people. I hope you're looking at it right now. Like in D of page 6. This is of the most updated review packet that we just gave you. Again, like, it has extra stuff in it, but on page 6, the thing that Alyssa's asking about, page 6, question D, I think this is worth even noting that I think the question is asking, what is a VSW? SW, now, meaning, what is the riverbank? If I'm using S to stand for riverbank, shore, same thing. I just changed the word because I don't, riverbank, same thing. It is asking, what is the riverbank doing relative to the water? Notice I'm switching the order of the words, but I still think I'm true to the question. I mean, the actual phrasing of the question is, from the perspective of the water, at what velocity is the riverbank moving? That is the same thing as saying, at what velocity is the riverbank moving from the perspective of the water, right? It doesn't matter actually which word comes first in the sentence. And this is not obvious. This is about English math translation. It doesn't matter which word comes first in the sentence. What does matter is it's from whose perspective. What are we looking at? Which is the reference frame and which is the reference like object, like which is the target object and which is the reference object, if you want to put it that way. So we are looking from the perspective of the water at the river bank, or what I'm calling the shore. So what we want is VSW. Like we want this right here. That's what we want. What we know, what we're given is VBW and VBS. We now have, okay, and I know as usual, I'm over talking, I'm under talking, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm now equipped to like write this down as a straight up physics exercise. Like a lot of this was about translation, but I think, in other words, that the problem D4, so this is page, I can't even read what page 8. What am I saying? Page 8. Page 8. I'm saying we know now. I'm going to solve now, but I want everybody to understand, like, if I keep this thing in English, it is a funny thing that I'm solving for. I am actually asking, if you were the water, if you were a molecule, a water molecule, or you were like a lily pad, just like floating in the water, and looked out, I hope everybody agrees, you would see the shore, the riverbank, moving past you at some velocity, like because anybody on the riverbank would see you moving past them at some velocity, and velocity is relative. Like again, GPR4, VAB equals always, by definition, the negative of VBA, right? You go past them, they go past you. So the water is seeing the riverbank move past it at some velocity, some speed, and some direction. You might think that's a weird thing to care about, but I'm saying it's true, and therefore, and I care about it. I want to know the number, the exact magnitude and the exact angle for the velocity at which the shore is moving past the water. Now, whether it's strange to picture or not, and yes, part of physics is saying we want you to picture strange things like that more often because we want you to see that they're actually not that strange. But actually, it doesn't matter. Once I've pictured it enough to translate everything into this notation, now I just want to deal with the notation. I don't even care anymore what type of objects S, W, and V are. They're just 3 random objects in the world that are all moving past each other in some way. And what I know, like I want SW, I know like I wrote this ABC thing down because that's the memorizer or that's the law. It, as all good laws, it doesn't really seem like it says anything because it's so general, but because it's so general, it really says a lot. It's saying it doesn't matter what A, B, and C stand for. They just have to be arranged in that order, in that relationship, if you're going to add velocities. So the A, B, and C, of course, could be B, W, and S's. It doesn't matter, but they have to obey that relationship. So in other words, BW, like what I'm not going to do, for example, I'm even going to write it light, so maybe you can't. Like I would never, I'm solving for VSW. I am not just going to assume that VSW is VBW plus VBS. Like if you look at my pad right, and this is a good example, actually. I mean, well, this is forcing me to teach something. Darn it. And again, the only risk of this is that I'm not teaching everything, but like if you look at what's in yellow, you could barely read it. And that's good because I don't want you to actually take what's in yellow too seriously. But notice, if you think it's, this is what students will do on an exam, definitely including me. Like it's really easy to panic and to lose sight of what's actually going on and to basically take whatever you have as givens, know that this is, the mistake would be to know that this is an addition problem and then just take your givens and just add them together because it's supposed to be an addition problem and then assume that your answer is the answer. Like if you look down at the formatting, adding BW is not something you can do to BS. They just can't be added together. They don't produce anything. If we want to add, we either have to rearrange what we have or we have to be willing to subtract or something. We're looking for VSW. One thing I can say, so I'm going to go to, but we're looking to get VSW out of some arrangement of BW and BS. Okay. Sorry. Right, so one thing I can do is say this. We're looking for VSW, and we're looking to get it based on some things we know about B and W. So one thing that would certainly be true is this. Right? I mean, that's a true statement. You could write that down on your exam and it would get points. It's right. Like whatever S and W stand for in the world, just like A and C could have stood for me and the earth or whatever. S, velocity of me relative to some third object necessarily is me relative to a second plus the second relative to the third. Like I wrote the letters down in the order that is correct. And I'm solving for SW. The one catch is you might say, going back to this page, you might say, oh, I see what you might say. Oh, well, I see how that's. Why didn't I think of that? The reason a person might not think of that is because it's not done yet. It doesn't look good because you might say, sorry. You might say, oh, well, sorry. You might say, all right, Yaverbaum, fine. I get it. Like I have BW. I'm looking for VS. But look, Yaverbaum, you said to get VSW, you got to add SB to BW. And Yaverbaum, I have BW, but Yaverbaum, Yaverbaum, sorry, said add SB to BW, and no one ever gave us SB. Like if you're taking this seriously, these subscripts seriously, this becomes really easy once it does, but it becomes hard for a moment before it does because, right, what I wrote down here is true. Oh, and I know we have 8 minutes left, but we're just true and helpful, but not yet quite relevant because we don't have VSB. We weren't given VSB, but we were given VBS. And what we know is that VBS has to be the opposite of VSB. Like the thing we need, SB, is equal to. This is the other part of GPR form 4. This is what it means that velocity is a relation. It's a symmetric relation. If I go past you at 30 miles an hour to the west, then you go past me at 30 miles an hour to the east. So what I'm trying to say now, and I'm almost, believe it or not, I'm almost done. What you have to do this problem, the work that I haven't done yet, is add two velocity vectors by components. Like you have to make an XY chart, which I will try to make in a moment. but is in the solution sheet and all that. But really, anybody who's studying, which clearly Alyssa, and again, not to harp on it, but Alyssa would not have had the guts to ask about this hard problem unless she'd at least looked at it enough to know that she still finds it hard, even looking at the solutions. And I totally respect that. I even think I know partly maybe why. Because the work in the solutions is like setting up the chart and stuff. And the chart is what will solve this problem. But anybody who actually sits with this stuff, and I hope this next 3 days, this next week, gives people more of a chance to look at it. When you actually look, there's always a scary moment. It's like, oh God, this is scarier than I thought. Like, oh, wait, I don't. But then if you work through that moment, then there's always a moment where you realize, oh, the hard part is, how do you get from the actual question, which seems like English gibberish, to the comfort of a chart that hopefully everybody knows how to do after they've looked at the charts a couple times? The answer is you actually have, that's where the work is in translating the English. I'm saying now, I'm just about, with all the work, granted, I'm talking, but really what I'm about to do now is be in a position where I actually can solve this thing as a physics problem, because now I've actually reorganized the information given into the form that I can solve with. In other words, and I know I'm saying now, I'm saying I'm going to solve it like this. I'm going to add two velocity vectors together to get a third. The two that I'm going to add, well, one of them was directly given to me, and it's the boat relative to the other. The other one I got by flipping a velocity vector. In other words, this is where we're going to, what I'm saying is I'm adding, sorry. In other words, right. In other words, VSB, the velocity of the shore relative to the boat, not something that was given, but the opposite of something that was given, I say is 10 meters per second at an angle of 45 degrees southeast. And please, this will only make sense to anybody who's actually looking at the question as I write this. I'm saying VSB is that because, and I know we're about to, this will be the last thing. So what was given was BS, boat to shore, or boat to riverbank, was given as 10 meters per second, 45 degrees northwest. I'm saying flip that and say that the shore relative to boat is 45 degrees southeast. And having flipped that, we'll also know that what's also given is VBW. That was given as 12 at 30 degrees southeast. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this with the 4 minutes we have. Like, again, I'm claiming for anybody who's following this, now it's an exercise to be solved. Not an easy one, not even a one-step one, but it is now an exercise to be solved. I'm literally going to add this vector 1 here to this vector 2. Like, now that I have them written out as vectors, I'm going to add them in a way that I'm not even going to care that they're velocity vectors. I'm not even going to be confused by that anymore. I'm going to treat them just as though they were displacements or whatever, because I'm literally going to go like this. Oh, no, southeast. Sorry. It's supposed to be southeast. Sorry. It's supposed to be southeast. Sorry. And last thing, so then what I would do with these is I'm literally going to make, and I am still watching the time, I hope. Again, I think if there's anything I could do straight up of like sort of teaching-ish, I think this would be the thing I would have done. But okay, but well, anyway. In that blue thing up at the top that I just put, that's a chart. Those are numbers, right? I mean, I didn't do them in my head, but you could do them on a calculator. Some of them you could do in your head. And if you add those up, you'll get the final components of the final vector that is the answer to this question. Like you'll get a final Vx and a final Vy, and then you'll put those two things together and make a really big triangle. And the answer of that triangle will be the answer of the question. Hopefully that, but it's all about translating the words. Okay, I think so I hope this news was helpful, not hurtful, but it seems pretty clear to me that it seems clear to you guys what the news is. Those people who ask questions today definitely get points for those questions and all that, and I'll put the thing in the blah, 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 and I will post this, of course, and the video. Hopefully I've been posting things in the right place, I think for a while I was posting them in the, anyway. If I get any thumbs up or any hands up, then I'm gone and you're gone. If I can get any kind of goodbye or okay, or this.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, cool. So we're good. Okay, thank you all very